everybody? Welcome to the video. Once again, we got the figure making king himself, avid hockey fan, obviously avid Havoc fan, Mr. Zach Starry joining us again. We're gonna, kind of go over everything. We're gonna go over season thoughts and expectations for these two teams leading up to it. Obviously, we're gonna go over the playoff runs and the final series, and then kind of give our thoughts and hopes on next season, how we think we'll fare in that before concluding the video. So, before I get into anything, not going over anything specific, just want to talk about fan experiences with Starry and just from what I've heard around the league with all teams, not just Rivermen, not just Havoc. This includes all teams. We all have stories or something. It always seems like there's always an away fan that has a bad experience at an away game or something. There's been sometimes I've doubted some stories, but you know what? Probably more of them are true than not, unfortunately. Um, we had a few things, we know emotions are high in the finals, some things between Havoc and Rivermen. Again, don't want to get into specifics, but I know as a season ticket holder myself, just a man who respects the game of hockey and the players on the ice and everything like that. And you know what? After a finals win, loss, whatever, I don't think that's necessarily the time to chirp another fan base. I kind of think that's rubbing salt in the wound and kind of poor sportsmanship. We get it. This is an emotional game, okay? Emotions are high. That's completely normal, but it's up to us to control those emotions, right? So, unfortunately, I heard some things. Starry, I'll kind of let you talk a little again. Nothing specific, but just kind of your thoughts on the fan experience and kind of like if you're along the lines with me, you think season ticket holders should hold other fans and hold themselves to a higher standard. Like if you see that stuff, tell them to stop it. Obviously, don't do that stuff yourself. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, we and you talked about it. I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do other than just say, hey, knock it off, or maybe go get a security guard if you see someone throw something on the ice, like the guy that was in our group that did that. Um, it's not really um, any one person's fault sitting out in the crowd if somebody is being obnoxious. I mean, the person's just being a jerk. I think what drives the rest of the league nuts is when it happens, like what happened with our guy throwing the bottle on the ice. We all owned up to it. We said it wasn't right. We didn't sit there and pad that guy, and we agreed with you guys. That's wrong. It doesn't matter if it's our rink or your rink or anybody's rink. That's just not something that a fan needs to do. If you're frustrated, just leave. Um, but I think what happens in Peoria is the pride kicks in, and you guys want to back that person up like it's your child. And when a fan gets in the face of another fan, like one of your guys did to ours, and you bring that up, all the rest of the fans, whether they were there or across the stadium, want to act like that fan had a reason. And it's like not every time they have a reason. Just because they have a reason doesn't mean it makes it right. More people I think would stop slamming Peoria. They would stop the stigma of Peoria being the place where jerks go. Um, would stop if the rest of the fans would just agree that hey, there's some bad fans in that group, and I don't condone that behavior. And let's help get those people out of here. Let's help mute those people. I mean, it's not that we go in there and we're mad because you guys are chanting, "Hey, goalie, you suck," or you're blowing them obnoxious horns and stuff like that. It's just things that are said personally to us fans, and there was a lot of trolling going on. It's like it's not needed. Um, so I mean, just things like that. If you want to have a better atmosphere, just try to be more inviting to the outside fans and stuff like that. Don't try to constantly pick them apart through the whole game.
Yeah.
Root for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Like I said, and you won the cup. Nothing more needs to be said than that. There's no like when Rivermen won the cup. It's not like the first thought that entered my mind was, "Oh, let me go find a Havoc fan to talk shit." Like that's kind of dumb. Just celebrate
Right,
your win. Just celebrate your
right.
win. You know.
And we were just happy to cheer our boys on there at the end. I mean, we lost. There was not a bad call. There wasn't a cheap shot. It wasn't something missed. I mean, we clearly lost. We owned up to that. And we knew it. And we just wanted to sit there and, clap our boys off the ice. And what was kind of sad, what kind of really put a distaste in my mouth was security had to come in and kind of make sure all of us got out of the building or out of the section safe. And I've never had that with um, any kind of rink in my life. And here I've got my three kids with me, and we're kind of all having to be huddled in the middle of the rest of the group so that a fan doesn't try to hurt one of the children, because we don't know now at this point what is going to be done by a fan. And I just thought that was really classless, that you're winning. It's clear that you're winning. And now we've all got to kind of worry about how we're getting out of this rink. I
Yeah,
think that just speaks too loud against Peoria and everything like that. So
yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more on any of that. You should never have to experience that with your kids at a hockey rink. Never in a million years should you have to be escorted out by security because the other team won. Not because anything happened in the game, just
yeah,
because the other team won. You
right,
know,
right.
it's to me that's ridiculous. And like I said, if I seen any of that, I'm going to step in immediately, and I hold myself to a higher standard. That stuff's just unacceptable to me. But anyways, we'll move on for that. We'll get straight into this on our season thoughts and expectations of this team, and seeing how you're the guest, maybe you can kind of go into where you was at preseason during the season with the Havoc, what your expectations were, and where you thought they would end up, and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked pretty much since the start of the season, and when Glenn retired, and we got pretty much a whole new cast on the ice, and Stu stepped up, and Tyler went behind the bench, and we got all new, athletic trainer and equipment manager and everything like that. I messaged you. I said, I got faith in Stu. I think he can do it. He's been a winner everywhere he goes at every level. But the first year is always the year that you're trying to build something. And I think I told you that I figured we'd finish 6 or 7 seed. And while we did finish 5, and you're like, oh, it's 1 seed better, we were 1 point away from a 4 seed.
Mhm.
And the 3 seed, we had a winning record against them. So I mean, these guys were a 5 seed on paper, but they played like a team going to the championship. So that really surprised me that they were able to put it together so fast. I think that gives us a lot of hope. As a fan base, we got to not let that hope turn into expectations that are unachievable. And that's, let the guys still grow. We're still going into year 2. Year 1, maybe we got a little lucky. Maybe we got the talent come through really good. But as far as at the beginning of the season, I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I was expecting to have a little bit of a down year. I was expecting to just, be able to see a team rebuild, and I was very shocked at how quickly everyone came together, and every game was competitive. It wasn't like, well, we're up, we're down. I think Quad Cities, they started off the season really down and put it back together. And it wasn't like we had a season like that. We just stayed steady, and I think that's where we were able to enjoy it. Is there was no, okay, if this person makes it through the rest of the season, we'll be great. It was always just next man up, next man up, and credit to Stu and Tyler for keeping those guys focused, and credit for Glenn for finding the talent and knowing the pieces that work together with Stu. That gives us a lot of hope. We were so excited to make the championship. It wasn't a championship or bust season. It was hey, let's go in and enjoy this. And I think that's what made the team feel comfortable.
Right. Yeah, because and like I said, I think if you remember, like I always said, even at the beginning, that Huntsville always seemed to be that middle of the pack team. They were always right there in the they were just steady as she go. Never dropped too low. Yeah, they didn't sit there and climb up and get second or first, but they were always competitive. But they also had their hardships, right? I mean, a lot of veterans. left. Goaltending changes with Brian Wilson and Matt Petesian, and like you had some uh, good veterans leave. Rob Dar, Cy Nukovic. I mean, Max Milasek, I think is his name. I mean,
Milasek.
I suck with names.
Just
What oh, Dominic Procopio getting injured right before. I mean, so the Havoc had obstacles in their way, and they were just like, yeah, you might be competitive, you might be there, not a cup team, type
right.
of thing.
We gave up a lot of points and just having Cy, Tyler, Rob, and then Barber left. I mean, those four guys right there gave up a lot of points, and that's why we went in the season and we got these Swedes. They're coming in. We made a trade or two, and I was actually we started the season with two other goaltenders. Couldn't tell you the names, but they both took call ups to other places, so we had to scramble to find Matt and Brian. But when we got Brian, I was excited because here's a guy just come off an FPHL championship with a young team. This guy knows how to play with a team like that. They were able to swindle Pearl to come back one more year to lend his veteran leadership. We got young talent with Palmer, and he really grew into a bigger role this year. I was really excited for his role and everything, the growth in his year too. So, I mean, it was a lot that you went into, and you worried that this could all blow up in our face, and we could be the next Making Mayhem. No salt there, but they know. But or this could really work out and be what it turned out to be, and it turned out to be way better than I think any of us could imagine. So yeah, we lost the championship, but I think every fan is still riding that high of what a great season this was, and none of us have once even thought like, wow, that would have been so cool to win a championship. Oh well, now most of us are just like still talking about how great season it was and how great the boys are, and how much we don't want to see any of them have to leave next year. We want this team to come back whole. But we'll see. We'll see. It's exciting now going into next year. We actually, I think, for the first time coming in the off season, it's an excitement to go into a season that you didn't just come off a championship win with. So,
Yeah,
and then
and I
the league looks
agree.
like it's changing so much, so we might be ahead of schedule.
Yeah, and like I said, I would if I'm a Havoc fan, I'm excited for next year. And like I said, I yeah, you didn't win the cup, but I would still 1000% call this a successful year for the Huntsville Havoc. I mean, a
Absolutely.
1000%. I would call this a successful year. Just a great young team, and you do look like you said you might lose like Pearl or something like that, or but I do think you can keep a lot of these guys around, and hopefully you guys do because I think this could be a very deadly team. This could be a top three team going into next year. We'll just have to see how that goes.
I think losing this year, you always want to win, and a win would have been great. But I think losing the guys this year makes next year so much more exciting because if they win, maybe they go off to other places, maybe they join different leagues. But now being so close, you're a win away, and really we were, one goal away in game two from tying it up and becoming a whole new thing at several different points in that game. So maybe that keeps them hungry. Maybe that keeps them all together. They, stick around the off season with each other and then come back and they're ready to go. And, this could be the next 2000, 21, 22 Rivermen where they came back well grouped and after learning from another, good season and bam, they all come together. So
Yep.
it's very exciting. It's
Yeah, like I said, I would be 1000% stoked. So kind of going onto the Riverman side of things, expectations. I'd be lying if I said I expected us to win the cup preseason. I mean, we also had a lot leave. I mean, at the beginning, of course, Hags was going to retire from playing and coach. We had lost Levine and Barry. I mean, we had no goaltending whatsoever. We actually had four goalies in camp. Honestly, can't remember three of them. I want to say one of them might have been Ty Roy, but I can't remember really. And Brett Epp, who came from the Bobcats. And it was kind of looking like we might start the year with like Brett Epp and a backup goalie, and then we get Latinovich in a trade for Macon for Jason Hamilton. And so that kind of bolsters up the spirits a bit because I followed Latinovich with Havoc and Macon, and I was always a big fan of Latinovich, always liked the way he played and his fundamentals and everything. And so I was really excited, but also in the back of my mind, watching him with the Havoc, watching him with the Macon, he takes a lot of call ups. So is he going to try and start with an ECHL camp? Is he actually going to be with us? Is this basically just going to be Brett Epp, and Latinovich? Well, it turns out it wasn't even Brett Epp, and we ended up getting rid of him and getting Brandon Browley, who kind of came out of nowhere. And, Latinovich started the year with us and actually stayed the entire season with the Rivermen. And, I don't know what it is, what Guy does to convince people not to take call ups, but I wasn't sure on Latinovich. I really wasn't. I knew what he would be if he played a full year. I mean, I knew that, but was he going to give us that? So when we got him, I was like, we could make the finals. Now, if we win the finals, that's up for debate. Depends who we play and how they're playing. But I think we could legit make the finals if Latinovich sticks with us this year. And, we got off to a rocking start. We started with Quad Cities, and not against Quad Cities, but we kind of own them. I mean, just look at the records. We own Quad Cities. But they're not a bad team because if you look what Quad Cities did against other teams, they competed, they played, they won against other teams. They just can't do it against the Rivermen. That's the problem, which is why their coach is no longer there. But we had our issues on the road, but we got rid of players like Dale Dion and Joe Widmar, which I think surprised a lot of people at the time. They were like, "What, are you crazy?" Like Widmar was the points leader at the time, and Dale Dion was a staple as a Riverman. Everybody was a fan of Dale Dion.
That
Looks
that guy won a championship with the Havoc, by the way.
who Dion,
Over the Rivermen.
but
Just throwing that out there.
just a little FYI. But we it did it kind of through a red flag, but apparently he pushed the right buttons and knew exactly what he was doing when he made that move. I mean, we got a good young talent, Ryan Nolan, Mike Gillette, Caden Cahill coming up. I mean, just a good collection of talent that put us in a good spot to make a good run. We fixed our road issues. Gee not traveling with the team. I mean, the whole year was a roller coaster. And make no mistake, Rivermen had their obstacles too, with veterans leaving, injuries, the whole 9 yards. And there was at periods of time where Rivermen fans kind of doubted where this team was going, if they could make it to the finals or not. But the way they finished the year, the way they entered the finals, the way this team came together at the end, I mean, it was a magical run and what turned out to be a historic run, setting an SPHL record for most home wins with 24. I mean, anytime,
Could have had
including
26.
yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Anytime when you include the playoffs and regular season and you only got one regulation loss at home, I don't care what league you're in. That's pretty damn good.
Right. Who was that against?
And of course, it was against our cup opponents, Havoc. You guys were the one wild card team in the finals that I was just like, holy shit. Like, I think we're better. I think we have the better talent, better experience, and everything, and we can beat these guys. But for the reasons you've stated, that they're too young and too dumb to know they're not supposed to be there. They don't quit. They don't care about outside influence. They know how good they are. They play their game, and they're a confident bunch over there in Huntsville, just like the Rivermen. Like I said, it's bright future over there. But
Right. And it's where you hang your head high. I mean, we were the only team to give you a loss in the postseason. I do think this series came down to home ice advantage. I mean, going to that stadium, you guys have an amazing atmosphere there. It's loud. I mean, that stadium was built to be loud. I mean, that stadium was loud, with every league that they've been in, and that's including the crappy AHL that barely packed any fans in. They were still loud in that rink. So that does affect. And when you're young and nervous and ready to go, I mean, they came out and played strong in game two, but game three, they just didn't seem to have. It's like they knew what was coming because of how loud that building was. Not saying that fans sway either way, but we won game one at home, and I think that was because our fans got into that third period and kept the team pumped. If this is us as the 2 seed and you the 5 seed, or us as the 1 and you're the 2 and you got to play 2 in Huntsville, maybe Huntsville wins that series. Just uh, I think your fans did help you guys out a lot with that, and that's kind of, I guess, what made me upset with how that game ended in the crowd was,
Yeah.
you guys were part of it. You guys did your stuff. You won. Leave us be.
Yeah.
Let us enjoy the moment.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, I couldn't agree more with that. Which kind of leads us, into the playoff run thoughts. And like I said, you had, a pretty tough road, getting to the cup finals. You were, the road team, playing Fayetteville Marksmen, playing Dogs, playing Rivermen. Didn't play in your home arena in the first two rounds. You didn't get to do that till game one of the finals. So, I mean, again, like, the odds were stacked against Havoc greatly. Fayetteville was a good team, had a good record, and no disrespect to Marksman fans, but Havoc embarrassed them pretty much and swept them out of the first round. I mean, fair to say. I
I,
mean,
I think I think the one thing that was steady throughout the playoffs with the Havoc is they won game one. They had to win game one. We talked about it before ours. Is game one was the key. If the Havoc lose game one, the series is automatically over. We've seen that the Havoc won game one, and it didn't bolster well going into game two and three. I think same way with the Marksmen. If the Havoc go in, they lose that game one. Game two is a whole different atmosphere. Going in against the defending champs. We forget Roanoke is the defending champs. They're coming in. They're trying to repeat. They had a lot of rebuilding done this year too, but they were still the 3 seed. We had to win game one, and we embarrassed them in game one. Now they came back and tried to embarrass us in game two, but the guys didn't quit. In game three, we took it to them in their crowd. This Havoc team isn't somebody that we're like, oh, well, they got lucky. I mean, they had to run the gauntlet, and they had to run the gauntlet more than any other team. I mean, yeah, Evansville lost game one and won both games in Birmingham, but they failed to show up in the second round.
mhm.
Um, Huntsville took out a team that was number one in the league for quite a long time, and then took out the defending champs, and then gave you guys your only playoff loss. I mean, it was when you look back at it, our playoff run was way more surprising and harder than Rivermen's run, and that's not to throw daggers or anything, but I mean, you took out a 7 seed because of how great your season was. You got lucky and got the 8 seed rather than having to play Roanoke in the second round, which that was just that everyone knew that was going to be a sweep. Evansville used everything they could against Birmingham.
Yeah.
Us Havoc fans, to all you Evansville fans watching this, thank you for the extra bullets. That's going to carry on for quite a while. Um, but I mean, I think that was what we would have wanted. We wanted to run the gauntlet. We wanted to prove ourselves, and I think that's something that we can use for next year. Is hey, look, you can't say it's tough. We went against a 4, a 3, went against the 2, was 1 game short. That's it. So it was such a surprise playoff run for us. Not in my wildest dreams that I thought we would have made it out the first round, let alone to a championship.
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, I couldn't agree more. And like what you touched on, the road for the Rivermen. Like I said, uh, the first game was key against Pensacola Ice Flyers because it was at the hangar. So if Ice Flyers win in overtime at the hangar, who knows what that game two looks like? So that was one of the most difficult, besides when we played Havoc, one of the most difficult games we played was just that game one against Pensacola, because they had like 44 shots on goals against Latinovich, and he only let two in. He stood tall that game, got him to overtime, and we took out Pensacola at the hangar, and that was key. And I always said that was key for I was like, if the Rivermen win their road game, the series is over. They're moving on. I promise you, they're just the way they play in Peoria. You're not winning two in a row in Peoria. It's just not gonna. So if Rivermen won that game one, and just like they did with Pensacola, just like they did with Evansville, and again, I still gotta somewhat credit Evansville, like I said, because they had a hell of a finish. They played Birmingham at the end of the year well, even before the playoffs, and they play well in Evansville against the Rivermen too. That was the road actually game that worried me the most, honestly, because they got three wins in Evansville against us, and they always play. Even when we won, they played us tough in Evansville. So I was just like, playoffs. It's the Rivermen. They're letting in all these fans for free. Thunderbolts are going to want to fucking stomp our ass. Excuse my language, sorry. But, it's true. They're going to want to stomp us. And what we did to them in game one in Evansville, like I said, that set the tone right there. 110%. And I was just like, yeah, we're sweeping Evansville. That's an easy call to make. And like I said, so it was just like you and dogs. And realistically, I was thinking dogs have home ice. Game three, I can see the dogs winning a game three against the Havoc on home ice. Havoc's had a good run. They're kind of my dark horse, but I think I got to give this one to the dogs. And I was just like, holy shit, Havoc are going to see us. I was kind of stunned. I was like, the one team that probably worried me the most. I was more worried over Havoc than Roanoke, and Roanoke was the defending champs. I was confident against Roanoke, but I was just like, Havoc match up well. They can really match our disciplined physicality, not just physicality, taking penalties and shit, but they can be disciplined and they know how to bait you too. They know how to draw penalties, they know how to take advantage. And like I said, it was Rivermen's team defense and special teams that carried the way, blocking shots, clearing. I mean, not letting teams set up too much in their zone, because you've seen that when it gets that way and things get hectic and things get lost in the shuffle, that's when Rivermen are kind of vulnerable. It's when they tend to turn over the puck. It's what led to the Robbie Fisher breakaway, a turnover that sealed the game right there for Havoc. Game one, very important. And I told you straight up, Havoc take game one. I'm still confident in the Rivermen taking two games in Peoria. I was like, not sitting here saying 110% they will, but if you ask me if I'm confident, I absolutely am. And I knew Havoc would give us a push. And to tell you the truth, even though Havoc won game one, I don't know if you would agree with me on this or not. Even though they lost, I kind of believe game two was Havoc's best game. I really do.
They kept fighting. I mean, they were down 3-1 at the end of one, and they didn't even get that one goal to the end of the third or into the first period, and then give up a quick goal to start the second. I mean, you're down 3-0 basically at this point in the second when you take away the two matching goals, and they fought back and they made it a 4-3 game, and then they give up a soft goal and it's 5-4, and they had their chance. They kept battling, had their chances left and right. Riverman took a dumb penalty at the end of the game. Could have really hurt them, but like you said, their defense held in there, and we just couldn't get that fifth goal in, and give up the empty net goal, and still they were fighting. I mean, it's 6-4, and they were still fighting to get that fifth goal. I had a lot of confidence going in. I was more at peace though going into three that okay, and then we give up a quick one on the first shot, and then um, we got a quick one back. It's like, all right, we're back in this. And then bam, bam. The best thing, though, I've seen in the whole series, I know this sounds insignificant at all because it was game 3. But after the third goal goes in, and you scored those 3 goals quick on Mike. Um, I don't know if Stu was asking if he wanted off the ice or asking should he pull off the ice, but Mike looked right over the bench. He had his hands on the back of the goal, on top of the goal, and shook him off twice. And I thought, Mike's in this. Mike's in this now. Like, he's not giving up. He's not taking the pull. And he didn't give up another goal the rest of the game. And I firmly believe that had we pulled that game out, Mike would have been the MVP. Right there in that moment told me, if this guy comes back next year, we're winning it all, because he had the heart in it. He could have rolled over. He could have backed out. Brian is more than capable to come in that game and still keep us in it. He wanted to be in there. He didn't want to sit out. And I don't know if he watches or someone sends it to him, but to me, that was heart at its fullest right there. And um, I mean, yeah, outside the empty net goals, he was lights out that rest of that game, and he kept us in it. We just couldn't find the net. And credit to your defense, or really credit to your forwards, because they were blocking everything from the points. Everything from the points was getting blocked, and um, that's what stopped us. We just couldn't get the shots in on Nick the rest of the game. And I mean, even really the first goal, your guy blocked it. Alex was just smart enough to throw it back at the net, knowing that Nick probably went down on the first shot. And as Nick was getting up, the second came in at him. He never saw it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was just a testament to that great shot blocking. I don't know how many times we smoked them with slap shots, and they get right back up and block another one. So,
Yeah. Which, like I said, we've kind of already been talking about it, which, I kind of have some numbers here, the thoughts during the cup finals, and kind of like, I told you before, I believe the Rivermen stars got to be stars in this finals, and I told you, like, the Elk Stam Bros, Buster Larson, Dylan Stewart, these guys got to be huge in this finals. And so, me being a numbers guy, I kind of looked at the numbers just to be sure. And it turned out like both the Elkstam bros, Dylan Stewart, Buster Larson, Kyle Clark, these guys all had 0 points in that finals. Not saying they played bad. I still think they made their impact, but like you said, they just had some bad bounces, bad breaks, and just couldn't find the back of the net, and couldn't get an assist on the board either. I mean, you had Brett Humberstone uh, suspended for the last game. The goals by Havocs. I'm gonna butcher these names, and I am so sorry if I butcher these names. But you had a goal by Alex Kolcheski, two by Regianato, which he was like the leading goal scorer.
which was a
Yeah,
shock. That's when we thought, oh man, if Reggie's scoring, then we're on top of it, because Reggie's usually the guy who sets the pace of the game, not scores. I mean, he can do it. He's a great all around player, but you think more of him as the guy that protects our goal scorers, not puts the goals in. So if he gets one, we're on it.
yeah, and he had two in game two, two big goals in game two, and Jack Yanich had a big goal. Obviously, Robbie Fisher had that clinching goal in game one. Henderson had a goal, and Thompson had two goals too. So again, it was a lot of secondary scoring, and like I said, in a cup final, you want to see people like Stewart and Larson and the Elkstam bros. You want to see them on the score sheet, one way or another. Fan, coach, teammate, you just feel better about your chances when these guys get on the score sheet, and
Well, and to be said on that too is, for your guys' side, they did a good job sticking to your game plan. I know that Buster was on that game plan to isolate, to take care of. It was to get underneath Reggie's skin. It was to take care of the Elkstam brothers. Though your guys stuck to the plan, and you guys kept them scoreless and pointless. Like I talked about, it's always been next man up. So every one of those guys you named that got the goals were not really known as our leading goal scorers. And instead of it just being a complete shutdown, we still posted up 3 goals in the first, 4 goals in the second, a goal, there in but they were guys that weren't top leading scorers. And that to me, I think speaks loud on our side, is that game plan aside, these guys still stepped up and found the back of the net, and they weren't guys you were thinking, oh, yeah, we're gonna watch them too. You just thought, okay, well, we'll isolate these guys and we'll blow them out, and they still kept it a close game because
Mhm.
we don't look at it as, hey, we got to feed Cy for the shot. We got to get Dar open on the side on a power play. It was just, hey, throw it at the net and swing away,
Yeah.
which made it, I think, a lot more harder to predict us.
Which is a scary thought if you think about it, because if you got these guys on the board, plus the names I mentioned putting points on the board, good luck beating the Havoc. I mean, and I think this speaks to my points because if then I went ahead and went around and told you players like J.M. Pietrowski, Jordan Ernst, and Caden Cahill also had 0 points that entire finals. Typically, you're like, well, I don't think the Rivermen did that well then. But, we had a big boost from one of our two biggest stars in Alec Bear and Hagman. They both led the way. Hags had 5 goals and 6 points in the finals.
Take
Bear,
away two empty net goals, though. I
yeah.
mean, so I mean, take away those two empty net goals by him, and Havoc still did a good job isolating him. He did find the net. He did find his way. And I think what you're saying here, I'll let you go ahead and finish, and I'll make my point. I
uh,
jumped the gun. Sorry.
no, hey, no, you're good. But, Bearsy, he had a goal and some 7 points in this series too. Like I said, Mitch McPherson had a big goal in this game. Mears Moore had a couple of goals. Wilkie, but Wilkie only had 1 goal in this series too. He didn't even have any assists. So and Dante Zapata, he was a big part of our identity line and was on the first line a lot of the year going down. But he only played 1 game in the finals and only played 2 games in the playoffs altogether, and was a healthy scratch for the most part. Caden Cahill missed game 2 because of an injury, but yeah, I mean, we had a lot of secondary scoring too from our guys, but I think what put us over the edge was Bears and Hags doing what they did to help us, and of course, led at net by Latinovich. I think he had a great playoffs as well. But anyway, on to your point that you was gonna make.
So to make the same point, but for opposite sides here is testament to the Rivermen, because that it was the Havoc's plan to isolate your goal scorers, and while they did on a couple, the other ones, the big stars with Hagman and Bear and even Wilkie's 1 goal. I mean, yeah, we isolated him from the point really well. He got the one, but he didn't get those assists. But you guys still found the way to break through. So that shows you just how good those guys really were. But on the other side of things, that a young 5C come in and took apart the 3 goal scores that you would expect to see, stopped a lot of the secondary guys from scoring. And if we could have just kept the two Alex off the board, this series is a whole different outcome there in game 2. So again, it's nothing to hang your head on if you're a Havoc player watching this or a Havoc fan watching this. It was just those two guys. They're gonna find a way to get through. As much as we give Hagman crap for being a sissy and being able to talk the talk and not walk the walk, he's a goal scorer and he'll find a way in. He'll find a way to hide in the back and collect a rebound. It's just you just have to anticipate that that's it. And if he's the only guy scoring it, if you got Alec, the only one scoring it, those two guys, you have a good chance of winning. And the Havoc had a good chance of winning. I mean, they took it game 3 and almost took it in game 2. So, they did their stuff. It's just, you just couldn't prevent it all. I mean, they're a tough team. They're a very tough team, especially at home, like you pointed out earlier.
Yeah. One last thought before we move into next season's hopes and expectation and conclusion. I just want to say I think a big turning point in that game 3, and where I think the game flipped upside down for Havoc, was the Dylan Stewart penalty shot. I think if Havoc can get that penalty shot to go, that really boosts the morale of that team. That really gets them going, and they can make that push to try and get that tying goal. I think that was. I mean, you want to talk. You don't get much more pressure filled than that. one-on-one for both players. You got Latinovich knowing damn well he has to stop this puck. And then you also got Stewart like, fuck, dude, I got to score. Like, we need this goal. Like, so it's just, it don't get any more pressure than that. And for Latinovich to come up big in that moment, I think was enough to get to really for Rivermen to click in their mind like we got this. We just got to stick to our game, but we this is ours to win. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that real quick before moving on.
That was big. I think if we score that 3-2, and maybe gives us an extra push, but missing it didn't really change anything because the score never changed after that. It wasn't like it gave you guys a ton of momentum. If it did, the Havoc were able to match it and keep you guys off the board. I think that was more a missed opportunity for the Havoc than it was a gained opportunity for Peoria right there. I think the big thing for the Havoc was they never lost their game. We lost the game, but we never stooped to Peoria's style of play. Game two was chippy. Game two was a lot of penalties, but they weren't retaliation penalties outside of after Ernst ran Mike. Both you and I said there's one coming. There will be retribution. And they got it. I do think Ernst should have got suspended if you're going to suspend one of our guys because both hits were illegal. Humvee should have gotten suspended for that. I'm not here to defend that. That was the right call. I was kind of weird though. They only gave him a 5 minute and still let him play instead of kicking him out of the game and then suspending him. That was a little odd head scratcher, but that's not to say he didn't deserve to have to sit out. But I think Ernst should have got a suspension too because the photo that the Journal Star took showed he was not pushed. He went in full force. And that's just something you don't do. That's dirty hockey right there. But outside of that, I mean, neither one of those were really turning points. It didn't pump us up any extra. Both you and I thought that was going to be it. It wasn't. I think for the Havoc, the turning point was getting that game one win. I think that game one win turned it into a different series. I think that meant game two had to be more physical. Rivermen were going to bring it to reestablish their area. But I think what was great was the Havoc never changed up. Going into game three, they weren't looking to get dirty. They weren't looking to fight back. Reginato stayed on a leash all series long, outside of when Hagman got what was coming to him after running his mouth and then shoving one of our guys into the goalie. Reginato proved why he wears a shell on his back. But outside of that, I can't really tell you one tipping point that lost it for us. We talked about penalties. You can't take too many penalties because that will make you pay. And I think you got a couple, but we took a lot of penalties, especially in game two, and we were keeping you guys off the board. I think this series was more for us to build off of than it was for us to go, damn, if we'd only done this, we'd have won. I think it was something where it's like, okay, we just weren't ready to face a team like that next year. We now know what it takes. And you see that so many times. I mean, the '08 Penguins, and they come back and won the Stanley Cup. You look at, those three real losses the Rivermen took. Yeah, they lost all three, but they built the team that won these last two because of those three. I think if you don't have the shortened season or COVID, maybe Peoria does something that year. A year early because they come out of the shortened season, skipped a year, but won a championship right away. So
Yeah.
I think definitely losing this bodes better for us than it does against us. This isn't something where I think we're a fluke and next year is going to be a total down year.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think it'll be a down year at all for Havoc, like I said, and unless for whatever reason they lose a lot of their core, which I don't think they will. Um, I don't see how they don't compete next year. I mean, like I said, they're well coached. They buy into the system. They're a confident bunch. Like I said, when it came down to it, and I know I was laughed at in the SPHL group for it, but I wanted to see how the Havoc would do in deep waters. That's why I kept making that reference. It's like, okay, they might win game one. They might even come out to a hot start in game two, but what if this goes to a game three? Can this young Havoc team hang with a veteran Rivermen team with all this championship experience and all this veteran leadership they got? It's obviously no disrespect to the Havoc. Like I said, very young, talented team. They have good leadership in their system as well. The only championship experience on that team though was Pearl, if I'm correct, and he didn't even make an appearance until the last game of the finals. So, I mean, again, this was a very young, kind of inexperienced team going into those deep waters. I really wanted to see how Havoc would do, and it's not like they drowned. I'm not going to sit here and say Havoc drowned completely, and no, they didn't. They held their own. They played great hockey. They just fell short. It just wasn't their time yet, and I would say they did pretty good, and I think they put up a damn good fight, made Rivermen earn everything, literally everything Rivermen had to earn. It wasn't just given to them by any stretch. So with that, we'll go ahead and go into the last little part of our video before we wrap up here. I know we're coming up on 45 minutes, but when you're sitting here talking hockey like this, it's easy to get fucking caught up. And I know I've cussed a few times in this. I'm sorry.
Censorship. They're
Yeah,
coming after you now. They're gonna shut
yeah,
this whole thing down.
yeah. I know. I'm sorry if you're 12-year-olds watching and don't know the word fuck yet. My
He obviously doesn't go to Peoria games then.
oh god. But so and I think we basically touched about it. So, but just briefly, give me your thoughts and expectations opening up the 24-25 season next year.
uh, Expectations. My hopes is that we run back and do it again and win it this time. Expectations is just come out and stick to the same formula. Come out and play the same game. If I'm talking to the players, it's come back, just improve on what you saw didn't work, and just stick to your game. Don't change it up. Don't try to become something different. Don't think, oh, we got to uh, totally improve ourselves. What you did this year was great. The league's changing. You guys are going to be seasoned veterans to compared to a lot of these teams that have got coaching changes. They're going to bring in a whole new team. Um, don't get too confident. Don't get too cocky. Don't stoop to other games. Stick to what Stu and Tyler, do. I think Stu and Tyler have got it down. They're very smart guys. I don't think I have to tell them anything. They would just probably laugh if I did. They proved it this year, just how smart they can be by staying quiet, and they did an excellent job. I can be more proud of this coaching staff. Um, I really think that if we get Brian Wilson and Mike Robinson, Robo, back all year and I'll take call up, it's going to be a very scary team to have to face on the road or in our barn. I think if those two stay on it and you can rotate them one game to the next, or a 3-game series, you're having to face one of those guys twice, we could be looking at a record like you guys had this year, without having to run one goalie through the gauntlet of the season. I'm really excited for that. I really hope both of those guys come back. I think that'll solidify any kind of issues we have in the back half of the game. And if they come back, we could be looking at a ring next year for sure. If they're watching it, please come back. You guys did an excellent job. There was never once a goalie controversy. We never once thought that, oh shoot, one of them's in, we're not going to win. And we were 100% happy that we had one of you guys in net. So
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, if you get those two goalies back with the core you have in place there, like I said, good luck SPHL. You're gonna need it. Um, what with the Rivermen, I mean, just I think the theme is the unknown right now. It's kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie. We could lose a lot actually heading into the year. I know there's been talks with Gene Guy either being part time again or leaving altogether. I know Hags and McPherson are going to go. And then you got the new ECHL team, Bloomington Bison, opening up. So, you expect some Rivermen probably I wouldn't be surprised if you seen him on the Bloomington Bison. You know,
Farmed out like the Blues used to do.
yeah, and so it's what's going to happen with JMP. This is Ernst's fourth season. What's going to happen with Ernst? What's going to happen with Wilkie? It's just the list goes on. Even Latinovich. Is Latinovich going to go up to the E next year now that he got a championship here? I know that. I know this year bolstered his resume, and there's so many players on this squad that's deserving of an ECHL roster spot. Bearsy talked about going to Europe possibly. I mean, so it's just like, yeah, we got a lot of young talent, but it's like a lot of our veteran leaders may be leaving. So it's kind of scary to think about, but it was kind of scary last year to lose who we lost. I mean, when we lost Levine and Barry, legitimately I thought there was a little panic in that. There was people like, I don't know about this because we just lost two legit number one goalies basically, and we don't really have a replacement. And we ended up being fortunate with Latinovich. I mean, like I said, I honestly believe he was a huge key in winning a President's Cup.
I think you're right. I think though with Nick, the big thing was he didn't take the call up or get injured, and not that we would ever want that, but call ups are a big thing. And you guys went through what three or four backups because nobody could stick and play that well. If Nick takes a call up, I don't think we're sitting here talking right now. I don't think the Rivermen win that championship if Nick leaves that net for any part of time or to even gone through the playoffs. I really think. I know you guys give Hagman got the MVP, but if you look at who the MVP of that team was, as far as getting you guys there and winning it, I think Nick's got to have his own trophy. I just, we had, Matt leaves, we bring in Mike. Mike solidifies, becomes our playoff goalie. Nick leaves, who's going to step up and take that role? I mean, Yee obviously wasn't happy with any of the backups and kept rotating them through. Was Eric going to be the guy who could have stepped up and taken you guys to the promised land? You guys are good, but I think that Nick stopped a lot of shots in this series that was like, holy crap, he was on it. He wasn't just getting lucky. He
Right.
knew where it was coming. He stayed with it. I mean, the bad one that took the partition came right out to our guy. Nick was right there. He wasn't cheating around the post. I mean, that was a wide open net to any other goalie, and he stayed in the net. He followed it. He knew how that rink played. Testament to Nick. And if Nick's watching this, you were the MVP, I thought, of the winning team as far as longevity of the season wide goes. So I mean, I know you can say, well, take Hagman out and you X that how many goals, you take out Bear, but I mean, you look at what happened a couple years ago when Barry took that call up, or I guess that was last year. Barry took that call up. Eric was playing on fire. Barry comes back, and then all of a sudden, Eric's not getting the games that he was getting. And when he got back in net, he wasn't the same. And then it created a goalie controversy, it created with the fans. And they hear this, they know it's coming. And so it really kind of affected you guys. And I think that's what kind of hurt you guys against Roanoke last year.
Yeah.
So this year, you didn't have to have that problem. And there was no issue. Nick is the guy, I think. And if I'm doing whatever I can do to keep him back and keep him from taking call ups next year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said, if we can get just half these guys back, if we can get maybe JMP to stay, we can maybe get Wilkie to stay or Latinovich or something like that. I know probably at some point they're going to take a call up at some, but like I really wouldn't be shocked or like blame Alec Bear if he wants to go play in Europe or start in an ECHL camp because Bearsy is more talented than this league. He deserves to be in a league above this one. I could say that about so many Rivermen players, though. And like I said, it's just a commitment to this team uh, to stay and not take those call ups, to stay together, stick together, win two championships in 3 years. I mean, it's rare. I mean, I think I heard in another podcast it's hard to keep a core group together in this league for an extended period of time. Like if you have a group for 4 or 5 years, consider yourself lucky because that really does not happen in the SPHL that often.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, Rivermen were very fortunate in that fact. That's why they had that championship experience and leadership. And that's why I kept pressing that button. And I know people were getting annoyed with that, but it's like, no, this ain't like the NHL or any. Being together this long it's not a common thread in this league. So it's just that's why I kept like these guys are bought in together. They're confident in each other. Their chemistry is top notch. It's a hard team to deal with when they're all in, and I think they proved that again this year, and I think proved it together as a group. I haven't been this excited or attached to a Riverman roster since the 90s, since the IHL days. Like I've really grown to respect and admire and just really root for a lot of these, and I want them to be successful wherever to go, whether it's hockey or not. Just man, I want nothing but the best for these guys because they're all just so awesome. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up before we get to a full hour here. I guess this is the fucking Wade Riverman style power hour or some shit. I did not plan on this video being an hour, but you know what? This video again was so much fun to make, and I think it had to be made, and I think it's completely worth the watch. So any concluding thoughts before we wrap this up?
Uh, just I don't know. I think we just know that. I guess try not to be so defensive when people come at you at the Peoria fans. A lot of times we're just joking. A lot of times we know it gets under your skin. I know, your buddy Chris out there in Roanoke. Um, he knows exactly what buttons to push. Um, sometimes sometimes he knows too well, but um, he knows because you guys do let it get to you. Um, you'll throw back in our faces that you're champs. So if you're champs, then act like it. Let it slide off your back. And no one else gets that worked up about things. I know I like to pick at it a lot because I used to be a Riverman fan. I know what makes them tick. And, me and Chris get a good laugh out of sending messages back and forth to one another about some of the fans freaking out. Uh, but just laugh about it. Just have a good time. This isn't meant to tell you that you are a POS. It's just we're just from the opposite side giving you a different point of view, or we're just trying to bring you pop that swollen head you guys have gotten. Just laugh about it and move on. We'll go to your stadium, buy each other a drink, and have a good time about it. Nobody means anything personal towards you, so just chill. I know when you come to Huntsville, you're more than welcome. If you let one of us know, we'll buy you tickets ahead of time so you don't have to pay the Ticketmaster fees. We're welcome. We welcome all the fans in there. When we see them around the stadium, we're constantly shaking your hands. We had a couple of Riverman fans there in game one. Had a couple kids and stuff like that. You greet them. We want hockey to grow. This league is not us against the Rivermen. It's all of us in it together. We want to see more teams come in. We want to be more competitive, and we want these guys to stick around. You don't want to see another VC Bobcats not last. You want to see these teams come in and not have to move like the Mississippi teams. So,
Yeah.
hockey is hockey. You're going to get chirping. Just don't make it personal and don't take it personal. That's it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was actually pretty much going to be my concluding thoughts too. Like I said, they all know me. I've had a blast. I've had fun. I love getting right in the middle of things, stirring the pot. You guys know I've said some bold things. Sometimes even you disagree with the things I say or think I might push the envelope a little too far at times, but it's never anything personal. It literally is just me having fun, stirring the pot, trying to get us to talk about hockey. That's what it's about, isn't it? So that's all I'm literally doing. You and I both know that I basically have an online gimmick separate from my personal life. And like I said, yeah, it's basically me, but it's me turned up to like volume 12. That's all it. I'm not like that. If you think I'm like that 24/7, man, no, trust me, I'm not. That would be exhausting. No, I just like to have fun. I'm not trying to I'm just a fan having fun, man. It's just passion. I love this sport. I love the Rivermen, and you know what? I've come to love this league. I know a lot of people are like it's a beer league. Bleh. They're assholes. They're dumb. Not real hockey fans. I mean, these guys put their blood, sweat, and tears in this, just like any other league. The talent's there, the passion's there. I like I said, watching this league, thanks to Flow Hockey, shows all the games. I've literally the last 2 seasons watched about damn near every SPHL game just to really get to know these teams, and it's been fun. That's also what gives me the ammo to talk shit and come up with these stats and pregame thoughts and conclusions because, well, now I know the teams too because I've watched them. So, and that's why I've grown to really respect the Havoc. I've watched a lot of Havoc games over my time, watching SPHL, and I just really enjoy the way the fans are at the home games, just the way the Havoc play. I'm a fan. Not a fan like the Rivermen, but I'm a fan of the Havoc. They got my respect. I pull for them, just not against the Rivermen. That's the only time that you really won't see me pull for any other team is when they go against the Rivermen, unless you're Roanoke or Quad Cities, then I never pull for you.
Tain't happening.
Yeah,
There you go,
you
Chris.
had to do it. You had to do it. Shout out, Chris. But anyway, Zach, this has been fun. I've had a blast with you all year talking to you. I'm so glad to have you as a personal friend too, as a guest on this.
Likewise.
Um, Thank you for being on this and doing this with me. This is an absolute blast. I hope to do more of these with you in the future.
Yeah, anytime. You
Uh,
know, we talked to your wife about this, and hockey season's over, but we're rolling into baseball season, and football season's around the corner. So we just said we would stop talking hockey.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
she didn't make us sign anything about anything else.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, "Oh, honey, this is the end of the hockey season." Like, yeah, we get like a quick little break, but then we're right back in it. And she just kind of gives me that look, like, "You're an idiot." Like, oh, well, you're
I,
engaged to me though.
but I've got her on my side for the next 2 sports seasons, so I'm good. It's us two against you. So
And that, man, I swear, that's almost weirdly my favorite part about our friendship is the teams we like and the fact that they're opposite and we can give each other shit on it. I love that.
like what's going on right now in the standings in the Central. You
Anyway,
guys you guys have to read it upside down like we used to for all these years. Go Cubs.
yeah, not used to that bullshit. And like
Now we got the Bears. The Bears going to make some difference this year. You won't sweep us.
that's Jordan Love. Jordan Love, watch out for him. I'm telling you. All right. Well, anyways, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Thanks everybody for watching. This is the last video of the year, so we'll be at this again in October. Like I said, I hope to have other fan guests. I hope to have Starry back. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. And just a reminder, always keep it Riverman style. Right
Go
there.
Havoc.
Riverman style. Take it easy, Zach.
See you, bud.
Uh-huh.